Just look at him. Sickly, weak, lethargic. The entire world senses it. This is Donald Trump in Asia right now. You see him, he's reading off of these scripts with 28 font. You have Canada working on a trade deal with China to remove the 100% tariffs on electric vehicles into Canada. Looks like the BYD EVs are now going to be flooding into Canada, destroying America auto manufacturing in Canada. Great work there, Donald. You also have the president of South Korea talking about the grave damage Donald Trump has done, the potentially irreparable harm Donald Trump has done as ICE agents attacked the South Koreans at the battery plant in Georgia. You also have Democrats here in the United States sensing Donald Trump's lack of care, concern, or even focus on what's happening here in the United States. And Democrats have finally made some very strong moves in order to counteract Donald Trump's attempt to rig the midterms. We're seeing Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries go to Illinois. We've seen Democrats in Virginia getting ready to redistrict there. New York potentially redistricting. Maryland potentially redistricting. We're seeing Democrats across the country following the lead of California Governor Gavin Newsom with Prop 50 and figuring out how to neutralize Donald Trump's efforts to rig the elections. And as the Trump regime is saying that it will deprive 42 million Americans of their supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits, trying to starve Americans to death. That's what the Trump regime is trying to do right now. At least 22 Democratic attorney generals getting ready to file a massive lawsuit against the Trump regime for their cruel and unusual starvation tactics against the American people. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's oligarchs showing their true colors. It's obvious who they are, but you have Jeff Bezos planning to cut over 30,000 corporate jobs at Amazon. Meanwhile, you had that Washington Post op-ed that tried to glorify Donald Trump's ripping to shreds of the East Wing of the White House. I think the Washington Post said it's Donald Trump versus the NIMBYs. How utterly despicable is that? Just want to go through step by step again what's going down. You see here again the sickly, weak Donald Trump. You see his script right here. You take a look at what it says. Today, alongside this peace treaty, we're also signing a major trade deal with Cambodia and a very important critical minerals agreement with Thailand. The United States will have robust commerce and cooperation with both nations as long as they live in peace. As you know, this is one of the 8 wars my administration has ended in just 8 months. Nothing like this has ever been done in history. He's a walking, talking, utter embarrassment, a walking, talking fool. Weakness masquerading as strength, just a humiliating thing in Asia right now, disgracing the United States. Here was Donald Trump getting all touchy-feely with the Japanese emperor, which you're not supposed to do. Now, what's going on in the homeland right now? You have Democrats led by Hakeem Jeffries doing what I think we've always wanted them to do, getting aggressive in remapping the congressional lines. I mentioned Virginia, I mentioned New York, I mentioned Maryland, and I should have mentioned, and I'll do it right now, Illinois, because that's where Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries was. I mentioned the AGs getting ready to file the lawsuit against the Trump regime for depriving the country of SNAP benefits, even though there's an emergency fund to deal with this. Apparently, Argentina far more important than starving Americans to Donald Trump. Yep, Argentina gets $40 billion of taxpayer money, while 42 million Americans Donald Trump gives the middle finger to and says, you need to starve to death. That's what it means to live in the Trump regime. Meanwhile, not only is California pushing forward Prop 50, which is very popular, you have California Governor Gavin Newsom and Attorney General banta. They are now going to deploy their own election monitors to monitor the election monitors that the Trump regime is sending to try to intimidate people voting for Prop 50. Counteract, go on the offensive, use your moral authority, use your formal authority. And Prime Minister Carney of Canada also is doing just that in a major break with the U.S. Canada seems like it will be dropping its 100% tariff on Chinese EVs. Welcome BYD to Canada. That will screw in the worst way possible, if there's a good way to screw the United States auto industry in Canada. As SL Content says, Canadians will soon be driving cool electric cars that only cost $10,000. Meanwhile, Americans will still be burdened with $1.6 trillion of auto loans. Canada to drop tariffs on EV from China. And what's Donald Trump also learning? Well, the country of Canada is far more popular than Donald Trump. Take a look at this clip from CNN where they talk about Donald Trump, historically unpopular, the most unpopular president in U.S. history. Meanwhile, more Americans like Canada than like Donald Trump by wide margins. Here, play this clip.
What about how Americans feel towards our Canadian neighbors? Longtime friends, they're always considered to be the nicest people.
Yes.
What are they feeling now?
So, picking a fight with China is one thing. Picking a fight with Canada is just something totally different here. So what are you talking about? Net popularity in the United States. Well, Canada is far more popular than Donald Trump is here in the United States. Look at this. The net popularity rating of Canada is plus 49 percentage points. Look at the net popularity rating of Donald Trump here in the United States. It's minus 10. We're talking about Canada coming out nearly 60 points ahead on the net popularity rating versus Donald Trump here in the United States. When you pick on Canada as a United States president, you are picking on a country that the American people adore. They adore Canada. Canada has always been a friend to the United States, at least during our lifetimes. And when you're going after Canada, you are going against someone who is far more popular than you are with Donald Trump.
Now, here also shows what Americans think about Donald Trump's tariffs against the world. Americans absolutely despise it. Play this clip.
We're talking about tariffs here. You're just hearing that conversation. Has Trump push for tariffs been successful in the minds of the American people?
No. No is the simple answer. I think that Americans have moved more against tariff than any other major Trump policy that he's been pushing during this second term. What are we talking about here? Well, why don't we just look at this? New tariffs on imported goods. You go back to November of 2024, the majority, 52%, were in favor of it. Look at where we are now in 2025, in the fall of 2025. 60% of Americans are opposed to Trump's tariffs. So we're talking about a 4-point margin in favor, switcheroo, now to a 20-point margin against. And of course, there was all this news coming out of the World Series, right? Canada tariffs. We're not just talking China, we're talking Canada and tariffs. And get this, we're talking about just 36%, as I look at my little footnote here on the bottom, who support new tariffs against Canada. So the bottom line is this. If I were advising President Donald John Trump when it comes to his policies, I'd say step off the tariffs, at least from a political point of view, because the bottom line is it doesn't sell with the American people. It's one of the largest shifts that we have seen during Trump's second term in office.
Let's hear from Senator Gallego, who forcefully pushed back against the MAGA host cowards on CNBC like Joe Kernan and others. And Senator Gallego's like, how do you expect me to negotiate right now when Donald Trump has told the Republican senators and House members to go on vacation and not even talk to us? Can we talk about that? Here's what Senator Gallego says. Play this clip.
We can negotiate right now. By the way, how can I negotiate? The president's in Asia for 5 days. Johnson's basically keeping his the House of Representatives out till January to stop, and protect pedophiles. So who am I negotiating with right now? The other person I'm talking to right now is everyday Americans who are worried that they're going to have their insurance rates doubled overnight because Republicans refuse to act. So they're screwing up on tariffs, they're raising inflation, and now they're going to go ahead and raise your premiums.
The Republicans are refusing to be blackmailed and held hostage into what Democrats want. Mike Johnson doesn't need to do anything.
Well, Democrats, that's what I want is 24 million Americans. I want 24 million Americans to have inflation. No, okay, 24 million Americans want their insurance.
We're
want
finished.
healthy,
Senator,
healthy
thanks
and
for your
affordable
time.
insurance.
MAGA Mike Johnson also had to chime in, and he's like, we just can't figure out how to help people with SNAP benefits. The way the appropriations process works, it's so complicated. There's so many moving parts here, and we got a legal opinion. We actually can't do it. Look, MAGA Mike, y'all demolished the East Wing of the White House, okay? Y'all have put ICE Gestapo agents engaged in chemical warfare on the streets. I would like to think that you can figure out how you save 42 million Americans from frickin' starving to death. But here's what MAGA Mike said. Play this clip.
The SNAP benefits is a unique situation. I got a summary of the whole legal analysis, and it certainly looks legitimate to me. The contingency funds are not legally available to cover the benefits right now. The reason is because it's a finite source of funds. It was appropriated by Congress, and if they transfer funds from these other sources, it pulls it away immediately from school meals and infant formula. So it's a trade-off. There has to be a pre-existing appropriation for the contingency fund to be used, and Democrats blocked that appropriation when they rejected the clean continuing resolution.
Oh, and what's that sound? That's Kelly Loeffler. Remember her? She was that horrific Georgia senator who was appointed who lost the elections because she was terrible. A billionaire herself, and she married into a billionaire company. And she tries to attack Democrats. She goes, the Democrats, they're trying to subsidize healthcare with fraud. Here, play this clip.
They're demanding $1.5 trillion in taxpayer money to fund healthcare for illegal aliens and other liberal causes. Their spin is fact-free. They want to subsidize their broken, fraudulent, and unaffordable healthcare system, where premiums have increased by 80% since 2014, and those are the enormous costs that are borne on the shoulders of small businesses. But the pain is the point. Every single day of this shutdown has stopped 320 local businesses every single day from accessing $170 million in SBA loans for hiring and for expansion.
Again, just so utterly pathetic right there. Democrats also fighting back in some other ways as well. As we wrote on the MeidasTouch account, two can play at the game. The official Massachusetts state website for SNAP benefits is now displaying an alert warning that Trump is choosing not to issue November SNAP benefits that help you and many families put food on the table. The site also notes that people may have your benefits cut starting November because of the changes congressional Republicans and Trump enacted in the One Big Beautiful Bill. You see that right here. Also, Illinois' benefits website now displays a message warning that federal officials with the Trump administration have told all states that if the Republican-led federal government shutdown continues, it won't pay for SNAP food stamp benefits in November. As a result, SNAP customers will not receive November food benefits unless there's further action from the Trump administration to reopen the government. Now, that's what I mean. Fighting with moral authority, fighting with formal authority, fighting back. That's what we, the people, demand, and it's great to see. Everybody, hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.